Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're pulling back the curtain on what really goes into a modern website. We're going to go on a step-by-step journey together, building a complete blueprint for what makes a great site tick. From that very first spark of an idea, all the way to a fully interactive final product. It can seem like this super complex, technical world, right? Full of code and servers and all this jargon. But what if I told you it's actually a lot like building a house? You just need a solid blueprint. And in this explainer, we're going to demystify that entire process piece by piece. Okay, so let's dive into our blueprint. First, we're going to lay the foundations with some core design principles. Then, we'll build out the anatomy, the frame and mooms of our site. After that, we'll hook it up to the grid with the engine that makes it findable online, protect it with the fortress, and finally, we'll look at the control panel that, gives you the keys to your new digital home. First up, the foundations. Think about it. An architect wouldn't just start throwing up walls without a detailed plan, right? Well, it's the same for a website. You just can't start coding without a solid plan. These are the core principles that are going to guide every single decision we make. So, every great site is built on these 5 pillars, and they really do build on each other. It all kicks off with great content. But that content has to be easy for people to use, which is why usability is so key. Then, a beautiful design, the aesthetics, makes that whole experience feel trustworthy. But, none of that matters if people can't even find you, which is where visibility on search engines comes in. And finally, once they're there, you need interaction to turn that visitor into a real fan or a customer. All right, now that we have our principles down, it's time to actually frame the house. This brings us to the anatomy, the common structure, and the set of rooms that pretty much every visitor expects to find on a web page. Right at the very top, you've got the header. Honestly, just think of this as the welcome mat for your website. It's the very first thing a visitor sees. It's got your site's name, maybe a logo, and a quick tagline that says, hey, this is what we're all about. Next up is the menu. This is basically your site's internal map. The key here, it needs to be a clean, uncluttered guide that shows people exactly where to find the important stuff, so they can get around without any confusion at all. And now for the main event, the content area, or the body. This is the biggest part of the page. It's the living room, it's the kitchen, the workshop. It's where all the action happens, where all your text, images, and videos really come to life. And finally, way down at the bottom, we've got the footer. I like to think of this as the building's utility closet. It's where you put all that consistent, essential info you want on every single page, like your contact details or a copyright notice. Okay, so we've built the frame, the house looks good, but how do people actually find our house on this huge, sprawling map of the internet? This section is all about the technical engine humming away behind the scenes, the digital street address and postal system, if you will. Well, it all comes down to something called the Domain Name System, or DNS. And the simplest way to think about it is this. DNS is the phone book of the internet. It's the thing that translates the easy-to-remember website names we type into our browsers into the numerical addresses that computers actually use to find each other. And what's really cool is this translation it does. See, we remember names, words like example.com. But computers, they communicate with numbers, like an IP address. DNS is that absolutely crucial service that connects the name we can remember to the number the computer understands. So how does this all work? Well, it's kind of like a super fast postal service. You type in a name, your computer asks a resolver, which then asks a whole series of more and more specific servers, from the root server to the .com server to the specific name server for that one site, until bam, it gets the correct IP address and delivers you right to the correct digital doorstep. So our website is live. People can find it. But we can't just leave the front door wide open, can we? This brings us to an absolutely non-negotiable step, building a fortress. We have to secure our digital property from all sorts of online threats. And believe me, the threats are out there. Attackers might use phishing to try and trick you into giving up your password, or DNS spoofing to secretly send your visitors to a malicious site instead of yours. They could even launch a denial of service attack just to overwhelm your site and shut it down. And those are just a few of the ways to try to break in. And this quote right here just brilliantly illustrates how sneaky an attack can be. Imagine your computer suddenly slows to a crawl. You might just think it's getting old. But what you might not know is that it could have been secretly hijacked to mine cryptocurrency for some hacker. That's called cryptojacking, and it's a perfect example of a threat that works silently right in the background. So how do we fight back? How do we defend ourselves? Really, you can just think of it as a basic security checklist for your digital home. You need a firewall, that's your main gate. You have to update your software regularly to patch any holes. Use strong, unique passwords as keys for every door. And always, always keep backups of your data, just in case the worst happens. All right, we have built a strong, secure, and findable website. The very last piece of our blueprint is the control panel. This is all about how you can manage your site easily, making changes and adding new content without needing to be a coding genius. Now, to really get this, you have to understand the huge shift that's happened. In the old days, if you wanted to fix a simple typo, you had to call a developer to manually edit code files. The new way, it's all done through a simple, user-friendly management system. It's a massive, massive leap. It's a total game changer. And this new way is all thanks to something called a content management system, or CMS. And what is it? It's basically software that's designed to let anyone, and I mean anyone, even with zero technical skill, create, edit, and publish their own digital content through a simple interface. So you might be wondering, what's the magic behind this simple interface? Well, it's a powerful server-side language like PHP that's running in the background. While you see easy-to-use buttons and text boxes, PHP is doing all the heavy lifting, talking to the database, and handling all the complex logic to make your changes show up on the live website. And there are so many powerful CMS platforms to choose from. You've almost certainly heard of WordPress, right? It powers a huge portion of the entire web. But there are other great options out there too, like Joomla and Drupal, and each one has its own unique strengths. And that brings our 5-part blueprint to a close. We started with the foundations, then we built the anatomy, we fired up the engine, secured it with a fortress, and finally, we grabbed the keys with the control panel. So there you have it, from the design foundations and the page anatomy, to the engine that powers it, the fortress that protects it, and the control panel that puts you in charge. Every single one of these elements works together to create an experience. So the final question really is for you. Knowing this blueprint, how are you going to design your digital front door to be open, welcoming, and completely secure?